The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Here we go, loaded up, and we've got a lot going on with Tennessee in the NCAA tournament. Round one for the Vols, and Rick Barnes starts tonight with Louisiana. A full breakdown coming up. Also, we will get to Josh Ward, his thoughts on the running backs that Tennessee will showcase in spring practice. Always an interesting position because, quite frankly, you might want to save some wear and tear on some guys. And also, we'll take a look at Tennessee's offensive line as the Vols have to replace a guy in Darnell Wright who's creeping up the draft board to the first round and looks to go in the first round. Very talented player. I don't think some people realized how physically gifted he was, but there's a chance that Tennessee's offensive line could actually be better this upcoming year. We'll discuss why. And Ron Slay of the SEC Network will join us. So we got it all. We got football, basketball. Hit that thumbs up button, the like button. We greatly appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed at this point, what are you thinking? Good morning, Caleb Calhoun. How are you, sir?
I am very, very good. I am such a hypocrite because as much as I trash March Madness, I'm actually really excited to just sit around and watch the games the next 2 days. So I know you can call me whatever you want to call me for that.
I'm too. I'm jazzed. I enjoy it from noon to midnight, even though I'm a big football guy. You're probably more of a basketball guy than I am, but I'm a big football guy. This is my favorite 2 days of the sports calendar right before the weekend. Probably the divisional playoffs in the NFL. I love that, having back-to-back games. But I will watch from noon to midnight with a break. I've already got plans to meet someone. Looking forward to that. And we're going to see how many wings we can eat together. And I'm going to put the over-under at 49.5. And I'm going to go with the over.
That is a heart attack waiting to happen, isn't it?
Well, we got to get Caleb. We got to go somehow. You'll learn that at some point. You'd either go out on a good note and leave a decent looking corpse. I'm past the point where a good looking corpse is a possibility.
So you're saying you'd rather die? No, I want to die ugly and decrepit and old and looking horrible.
I know.
That means I made it a long time.
Yeah, I think it depends on your perspective there. But we do remember those, like, I guess James Dean, who was the one that said that. We remember him as that good-looking guy, but it seems like every rock star from the 60s and 70s died at 27, too.
They either died at 27 or they look really weird because they're still touring and trying to dress like they're in their 20s, and they need to accept that they're not in their 20s.
Also, Travis asking if anyone scheduled a vasectomy this morning. No, that would have been yesterday because then you get 2 days on the couch. But you could do it Thursday morning, but go ahead and take the whole day off of work. Yesterday was National Vasectomy Day because guys are able to sit around and just watch ball. So some clarification on what you said yesterday before we get to a preview of the Raging Cajuns. You don't hate the tournament, and it might be a little bit gimmicky, but your issue is more with the regular season. Is that fair?
My issue is that the tournament itself, as exciting as it is, creates other problems. Just on another note, I love alcohol. I am very, 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 very strong on how alcohol is bad for you. It's worse for you than there's studies done. Alcohol is worse for you than some of the hard drugs, not just weed, but it's actually worse for you than things like cocaine, heroin. It's one of the most dangerous things that's out there. It's probably the most dangerous depressant, and it's the one we've legalized. But I'm still going to drink because I love drinking. So
yeah, Caleb's kind of my own private YouTube. I was watching a special on that tonight about how you have to take more poisonous molecules in for alcohol consumption and the buzz than pretty much any other drug. That's why you feel so hungover from alcohol more than other drugs. You know, you could probably smoke a bong all day long. I mean, I haven't done this in a long time, but you could probably smoke a bong all day long and feel pretty good the next day. That's not the case with alcohol. So for those that are taking the rest of the day off, I want you to pace yourself pace yourself today. Like Kevin Garnett says, drink a glass of water every once in a while. Know when to drink a water, which is the dumbest commercial ever.
It is, but Kevin Garnett's one of my favorite players. He was my favorite player for years in the NBA, so I make a lot of excuses for him. But yes.
Funny you say that. He's one of mine as well. All right. Anything is possible. Is it possible for Louisiana to beat Tennessee? I think it clearly is. And I love the matchup of good against good here. This is essentially a Josh Heupel offense going against, I hate to say it because I don't think it's going to turn out this way, but a Georgia secondary. This is good against good. This is Tennessee being very good defensively on the perimeter. And this is Louisiana, who, if they hit threes, they're going to win games. Well, duh, you could say that about anybody. But Caleb, through studying Louisiana and the Raging Cajuns, what I've found is that they take threes efficiently. They're not Golden State. And listen, it's working for Golden State in the NBA. I'm not knocking. But they're not just going to chuck up threes left and right, which is why I will go ahead and throw out my prediction. I think Tennessee will play good perimeter defense. I think Tennessee will get Louisiana frustrated. I don't think this game's going to be close after really digging into it this week. What say you for the Vols in round one at a just fantastic 9:20 start time? Gotta love that. So we can get the local news in. We take the 2-hour break. But anyway, Caleb, not that I hate 9:20 start time. The worst is when you get sent to New Orleans to cover a tournament and it's a 9:20 start time. So then you catch up with your buddies who are supposed to meet you and they can't walk down Bourbon Street and you're stark sober because you've covered the game. Not that that's happened to me 18 times. But Caleb, what do you think of the game tonight?
So as far as the game goes tonight, I would mostly agree with you, but there's one major caveat, which is Louisiana is not your regular mid-major that shoots the ball well from three team. The reason they shoot threes efficiently and can go off is because their focus is actually scoring on the inside. They got Jordan Brown, a guy who is averaging 19 points a game, is 6'11". He's a junior. For the record, I wouldn't be surprised to see this guy. I looked at a little bit of his highlights. I wouldn't be surprised to see him transfer, hit the portal this offseason, and go to a bigger school. I mean, he has got NBA potential, I think. And
so maybe that works out with Tennessee. Maybe during the game, you're like, hey, how would you like to have one shining moment with us?
That's true. Or maybe he'll pull a Kevin Durant and lose to Tennessee and then go join Tennessee the next year.
There you go. Garnett, though, didn't jump.
No. I said Durant.
Oh, Durant.
Durant literally blew a 3-1 series lead to Golden State and then goes and joins them the next year in one of the weakest moves in sports history.
I agree with that. But if I'm Tennessee, I am dropping in some, hey there. You know, I mean, he is the type of player. I noticed that too. He's the type of player that can create buckets down low that if Tennessee had, they're a different team. And they're a good team now. Don't get me wrong. But they're a different team with a guy that can create buckets and then find guys on the perimeter. Right now, nobody collapses down on Tennessee because their guys on the post can't create buckets. And when you kick it outside, they're covered because nobody collapsed down. He's the type of guy, we're really on the same page today, it's weird, that I was thinking last night, he's the type of dude that if he were on Tennessee's team, I would be saying Sweet 16 is very, very likely.
I agree. This is where the key for Tennessee is going to be Jonas Aidoo tonight. The disappointment for Tennessee, I think it's fair at this point to say Ross Plachik is a disappointment. He is in his third year. He's a 7-footer. You always want one 7-footer that can really be that force inside, and he's never turned into that. So Olivier Nkamhoua has had to do a lot of the work, and Olivier's a stretch 4. So they're going to have more trouble defensively tonight than you might think because Louisiana can play a full-on inside-out game. And by the way, Louisiana has another forward who is 6'7", averaging 11 and 7.5 rebounds. Now, 6'7" in the NBA is not a thing in the post. It is a thing in college. In college, 6'7" can make you a big force down low. Tennessee's going to have their hands full because Louisiana plays a true inside-out game. They're almost like Arizona, but at a smaller level. If that makes sense. And
I like it.
Yeah, and I think that that could give Tennessee some trouble. The key for them is they need Adu to get in there and deny the paint as much as possible. I think Adu's defense is going to be the key for them to try to win this game. And because if he's not performing, Adu and Plavchik, one of them's got to be able to deny the paint. And if they're not, Tennessee is in big trouble tonight because you need your perimeter players, like you said, to focus on defending the perimeter. And if they're not going to do that, then you got a real big issue.
Hey, I'll tell you something too, Caleb. We both kind of, and if our buddy's listening, Robbie Davis at Davis Kessler and Davis, he's all over us about our Rick Barnes takes, and there's an argument to be made on his side for sure. And we've been hard on the fact that this is a defense first team, but let's remember this with kind of the old fashioned Rick Barnes style of coaching. One strength is his teams typically are more mature than others. I think that's pretty safe to say, even with Zakai Ziegler out. So when you go on the road in an NCAA tournament, you've got to be able to turn around and play in 4 days, and you got to be ready to go at 9:20, I think is the tip-off. It'll probably be more like 10:15 when the other games go long. They always do. Credit Rick Barnes' system for having mature players usually in March. We do have to give him his due on that, right?
Yeah, but it's irrelevant when you play teams like Louisiana. Those smaller schools that get in, they're almost always the most mature teams in their conference.
Well, true.
And Louisiana has their 3 leading scorers. They got 1 junior and 2 seniors are their 3 leading scorers. So yes, this is their first NCAA tournament. Dave, you've covered teams. I want to know what your thoughts are. I know people always say like the whole like no playoff experience or no postseason experience. Is that really a thing in sports? Is that really like they don't have any experience playing in this game?
I think that you're more apt to have maturity if you are older and you have been to the tournament. Duh, right? I mean, I think you're more apt to. However, I have seen teams when Tennessee played Charlotte help me with the year, but that was
2001, Jerry Green's last year.
Yeah, I mean, that was Tony Harris. That was a loaded team. I think Ron was on that team too. Ron Slade is going to join us. That was a team that I thought was a little immature. So they may have been experienced, but they were immature. And when they went up to Dayton and didn't get the seed they wanted, I kind of felt like it was bleh. And the guy's name was Roddy White. I don't know if you remember him from Charlotte. We talked to Ron about this, and I pulled Roddy White aside, and he was a swing player that was really good. He got drafted in the first round. I don't know what happened to him of the NBA. And I pulled him aside, and I said, man, I just got to tell you, you guys are really confident. Do you think you're going to win? Right when I turned my recorder off, Caleb, so it wasn't on the record, he goes, oh, I'll tell you we're going to win. And Ron Slay has told me since, he said, you should have told us that because that game crept up on them. So, but no game should ever creep up on you in the NCAA tournament.
No, not at all. Not at all. I thought that Tennessee team, that last team that had started the year number 4 and then stumbled to an 8 seed, it just seemed like everybody was ready to be done with that season and done with Jerry Green. I just felt like the annoyance of the fan base crept into the players, I feel like, on that team.
Well, and that was the point where Jerry Green had a couple of pops and he didn't have to show up to vol calls on Monday nights like coaches do now. And he's able to say, if you don't like it, this Tennessee basketball team, and he had a point. I mean, they were going to be a 20-plus win team. They were top 10 in the nation. If you don't like it, you can go to Kmart and rent a movie. Well, that was nonsensical because they don't rent movies at Kmart, and they didn't at the time. And there was the golf rumors and everything. John Wilkerson and I, who I love, we used to joke around. Do you remember the Europe song, the Final Countdown?
Yes.
We used to always say during that season, even though they were winning, Caleb, it had the feel that this was it. Jerry Green was ready to go. He got his golden parachute money. And we used to always joke around. We would say the final meltdown. And that is exactly what that season was. And it's sad because they had top 5 nationwide talent.
They did. They were a complete team that year. That was Kevin O'Neal's recruits, plus that class that Jerry Green landed in 99, the one with Slade that was so good. And that combination, they were both, that was a fully experienced team that should have gone way further. Sidebar, because we've had him on, I think you've interviewed him before. He covers LSU now, Ron Higgins.
Love Ron Higgins.
So he wrote for the Commercial Appeal for about 29 years.
Yep.
And
we sat next to each other in the press box every week.
Okay, so there's an article from 2007 you should read. I don't know how true this is, but you brought up Tony Harris. As I don't know if you know Larry Finch at Memphis. That was one of the big things that got him fired. He was a Memphis guy, took them to the national title in the 70s, was their head coach, got Penny Hardaway. Losing Tony Harris to Tennessee was the thing that got him fired. More than anything else, because he started losing play. He lost Todd Day to Arkansas earlier in the 90s, and then he lost Tony Harris, Robert O'Kelly, and Corey Bradford all in the same year out of Memphis.
Man, Tony Harris, okay. And I would say this to him if he were sitting right next to me. He had some attitude issues, okay? And when he took off in street clothes to participate in a fight, the late Gary Lundy called him a punk, and that got turned into a racial slur somehow. And Doug Dickey had a press conference addressing it. It was the most absurd thing that I've ever seen. It gave Jerry Green a vote of confidence. But I will say this about Tony Harris. He did some of it to himself. He had an attitude issue. But, man, you talk about snake bit. When they did the Midnight Madness thing, he comes out. Tennessee had never done that. Packed crowd at Thompson Bowling Arena. I went as a fan with my buddy because he was a huge basketball fan. I didn't cover it because he liked Duke. And he wanted Tennessee to be good, so they had a team to root for. And Tony Harris comes out first dunk, bruises his heel. Okay, so what was his last shot at Tennessee? It was against Charlotte. He literally hit the bottom of the backboard. He hit the pad on the backboard, his final shot with Tennessee down 2. I'm sure you remember that shot. My final vision of Tony Harris, Tennessee Sports Information Department completely turned their back on him. They were not going to protect him. I said, well, Tony's got to talk. And they said, well, that's on you. So I led a group of media members back into the showers, literally, Caleb, to try to get some sort of quote. And he's sitting in a shower stall with his head down and wouldn't talk. That's not the way his career should have gone. He needed, how about this? How about this reference? A Larry Brown type to be a leader instead of a Jerry Green type to be a leader. Yeah,
no, I agree. Which, funny enough, Larry Finch in Memphis would have been because the players respected him.
That's right.
And I would just say it. The Higgins article I was going to quote, there was a 2007 article he wrote on Finch. And apparently because Finch took over for Dana Kirk, and Dana Kirk had a bunch of recruiting issues at Memphis in the 80s. So Finch refused to pay or cheat or do any of that. There's a quote from a source close to Finch in that article that basically says Finch was losing players because some of them were coming to him. And they said a particular school in the Mid-South, a particular SEC school in the Mid-South, came to Finch, a player who committed there came to Finch and basically said there was all but an offer sheet from them. I don't know if that's Kevin O'Neill offering Tony Harris something, but it was a little weird that Tony Harris would have committed to Tennessee during that time when Tennessee was such a downtrodden program.
Man, I sound like a hypocrite. I would have cheated more back then. The SEC and the NCAA weren't looking at basketball. They just cared about football. You could have cheated left and right.
Oh, I agree. And that's why isn't it weird to you that Kevin O'Neill got that huge, amazing recruiting class in 97?
Because playing slow ball, yes.
Playing slow ball and Tennessee having not having had a winning record in 10 years at the time. And you get this recruiting class with like Isaiah Victor and Tony Harris. No, not Isaiah Victor. Was it Charles Hathaway or CJ?
Yeah, Pat Hathaway, yes.
Yeah. Tony Harris, a couple of other guys. I mean, just a little weird.
Very weird. All right, let's get to it. Today's tough question brought to you by Andy Mason Real Estate. Go to andymasonrealestate.com. Today's tough question off the Hook Sports.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Is Tennessee the best program in the nation to never make it to a Final Four? Your thoughts on the message board, yay or nay. I'll give you some other examples. Brought to you by AndyMasonRealEstate.com. AndyMasonRealEstate.com has over 40 years of experience right there in their office. Andy Mason is incredible, and he'll get you the right home. He'll sell your home, and he'll save you thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars because of the experience, best prices, best service in the industry. It's that simple. You threw this question out there. I did my research, and wow, you could make an argument for Tennessee. So some teams I'll throw out there: BYU, Xavier, Missouri, Utah State, Alabama, which could change this year. We'll see. I don't think they've got the wherewithal to make it that far. Creighton, Boston College, Miami, Murray State, Arizona State, Tulsa, another team that has never made the Final Four, Weber State, New Mexico, UAB, Vanderbilt, which surprised me a little bit. I guess I should have known that. Davidson with Steph Curry never made it. Texas A&M, Ohio, Pepperdine, Old Dominion, San Diego State, George Washington. So there are a lot of teams on here that place a more of an emphasis on basketball than Tennessee, who's always going to be a football first school. But you talk about funding and the fact that Tennessee hasn't made the Final Four, that all the schools I just listed, Tennessee has as much or more funding than all of those schools across the board for athletic department. So I don't know what direction you're going, but as far as the best program to not make a Final Four considering funding, I will go ahead and say yes. They're not Xavier. They don't have that sort of panache in basketball. At least they didn't 20 years ago. But yeah, for the funding that's been behind them, I'll play ball there. I think that they should have made the Final Four at some point. Surely to goodness.
Yeah, I think they're the best program too. When you talk about program size and their history, I mean, Tennessee's got a history of, look, I mean, Bernard King and Allen Houston and Dale Ellis, those are three all-star caliber players. Bernard King, if not for an injury, probably should be in the Hall of Fame. And,
yes,
you know,
I think he still should be, but he was pretty good after the injury, especially considering the injury was in the 1980, where you didn't have medical technology nowadays. We're like ACL, we'll rub some dirt on that, you'll be fine. But he broke his leg and was still pretty good after it. So that to me, no, I'm with you. I mean, those are some big time names.
Yeah, some major names. You're right. And then, so I do. I think Tennessee's the best. I think Missouri probably has a case. I'm not fully adept on Missouri's basketball history, but I know that they wasn't Gene Keady the coach there, or was that Purdue where he was the coach?
That was Purdue.
That's right.
He had an incredible come over.
Incredible come over? What does that mean? Oh, comb over. Sorry.
No basketball reference at all there, Caleb. But no, you look at those other schools, the Xaviers of the world place more of an emphasis on basketball because they know they can't compete in football. But based off funding alone, I mean, that's a pretty easy argument to make that Tennessee's the best program to never make the Final Four. But they may do it this year, Caleb. I know you believe.
Oh, gosh, no, I don't believe at all. But I will say, had they actually put any effort in coaching hires up until before 2005, I think we would have a different conversation right now. I think I look back at the candidates they could have hired when they hired Jerry Green and Buzz Peterson, and I'm just like, people like Greg Marshall were out there. People like Bill Self were out there. And you go for Buzz Peterson.
Well, and even the guy that had a long career at Vanderbilt.
Kevin Stallings. That would have been a boring team to watch.
They were boring, but he had success at Vanderbilt, and they had him hired. I don't know if you remember, but Kevin Stallings was on the front of the Knoxville News Sentinel as the next coach of Tennessee basketball. That was written by Mike Strange at the time. And there was one little issue is that Doug Dickey went for the final interview, and Doug Dickey went in another room to take a phone call from Jerry Green, and then was thrown out of the Stallings household because Mrs. Stallings was listening to the phone call through the door. I think I've mentioned that story to you before, right?
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah. I know that Jerry Green was like, they rushed to get him. It was like, it wasn't not rushed to get him. I'm sorry. They settled for him on accident. They didn't he was not their top choice at all.
I will say this, the funniest thing about Jerry Green, and there were a lot of funny things about his tenure at Tennessee, including the Kmart, go rent your VCR tapes at Kmart. But the best thing was when I got a text from a coach. He said, you need to look up when Jerry Green was hired at Oregon. And it took forever. That was before YouTube had every single video known to man. I feel like they have my first steps on YouTube nowadays. But he's introduced, and they said, now I bring you Jerry Green. And he goes, I am so, so pleased, so honored, can't believe that I have been hired by the University of, and he forgot the name of the school. And I swear to you, it's out there. Somebody goes, Oregon. And he goes, the University of Oregon. That's right. But one of his assistant coaches sent me that. I don't know if Josh is too young to remember that. Josh Ward of the Sports Animal joins us now. Do you remember that video in which Jerry Green couldn't remember which school hired him? Josh, good morning. I don't remember ever seeing the video. We're having trouble with Josh's audio. I think we're having trouble with your audio on your end. Are we all locked in there? Try again, Josh.
So, Dave, do you know if
there you are.
Does it work better when the mic is turned on or off? Which is the more effective method? Is that a better introduction than Jerry Green's or worse? Which
I remember my first day in radio.
Yeah, I'll bet Jerry Green wishes that day that his mic wasn't working, so nobody could hear that he didn't know where he was working.
Well, the mic wasn't working when Rick Barnes was hired. Who remembers that press conference?
the mic had issues that day as well. But yeah, the fear at the time, because remember, things could have been going better for UT Athletics at the time, was that, oh, no, this is not a good sign of what's to come. But things have actually gone better for Tennessee Athletics since then. So it's not always an indication of what's happening next.
Well, I'll ask you today's tough question, brought to you by Andy Mason Real Estate. Go to andymasonrealestate.com, save thousands or tens of thousands. Is Tennessee the best team, or is Tennessee the best basketball program to never reach a Final Four? There are other programs that have big-time funding, like Alabama. There are some, like Xavier, that place more of an emphasis on basketball. But it is a little bit stunning with all the names that you go back in Tennessee history that they have not made the Final Four once, Josh. Does that not blow you away a little bit?
Besides seeing how things have played out, yeah, it is a little stunning considering the resources. They've had good coaches. They've had some great players along the way, and they've had opportunities, Sweet 16 appearances where you could very easily see 2 more wins to get to the Final Four. They have the one Elite Eight appearance where it came down to the very end and almost got in. But yeah, considering how good Tennessee actually has been a number of times and how many good players they've had and the money that is put into Tennessee basketball overall, yeah, you would think that they would get there considering other programs like VCU can get there and George Mason can get there. Then, yeah, you would think Tennessee could get there at some point.
And some big names. Caleb, go ahead and jump in there when you start talking about different decades of Ernie and Bernie and all of those guys, and Caleb mentioned them before you came on. I mean, there's just an awful lot of history, Caleb, for Tennessee not to make the tournament. And some of that history, as we talked about, was under Jerry Green. So, but at least he knew where he was hired. So go ahead, Caleb. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree. And one of the things that really stands out is Tennessee Thompson Bowling is one of the 5 biggest arenas in college basketball. And there's of the 4 ahead of them, one of them is a football arena, the Carrier Dome. And so that doesn't really even count. By the way, my condolences to Brent Axe. What ESPN Syracuse did was disgraceful. Just wanted to throw that out there, to fire somebody for being too critical of the program. But anyways, what Tennessee has a top 5 arena that was larger than Rupp for a long time until recently, I think. They have, you're right, a lot of resources, a lot of tradition, a lot of great players. And I think Josh brought up a great point, an incredible set of opportunities to get to the national title. I mean, I don't know if the program will ever get over that 2000 loss to North Carolina, because it was the red carpet to the national championship game was laid out, because had they beaten North Carolina, they would have played Tulsa in the Elite Eight. Then they would have played Florida in the Final Four, and they had swept Florida that year. So I just, that talk about opportunities wasted.
By the way, Josh, that's Mark Packer's fault, because he came up to me and said, it looks like Tennessee's going to beat North Carolina. And at that very moment, we were on the sideline. At that very moment, Brendan Haywood got in foul trouble. In comes this guy named Julius Peppers. You're like, wow, he's got a lot of muscles.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, that game flip-flopped as soon as Mark Packer said that. It's his fault.
Yeah, see, that's ahead of this time. Today, if Mark Packer were to do that, that's when you immediately pull out your phone and you bet on the other side because you know that has just completely jinxed. That's roses in the mouth 0-1 after a win against Florida move. Like, I don't know about this move here. But that's part of it. Like, I think Tennessee fans feel like there's just this snake bit issue with the tournament for whatever reason. Recent history would include Kyle Alexander's injury against Loyola Chicago, where you want to talk about a road to the Final Four. Loyola Chicago took it after beating Tennessee in that second round matchup. The Purdue game with the questionable call there late in the game just a few years ago with Lamonte Turner's foul. So they've had opportunities to get there. I already mentioned the Elite Eight, the Jarnell Stokes play late against Michigan. If you win that game, you're in the Elite Eight and just needing to win one more to go to the Final Four. So they've had shots, they've had teams. Sometimes, though, when Tennessee's made the run, they didn't enter the tournament getting all kinds of buzz. The Elite Eight team was a 6 seed. The team that played against Michigan in the Sweet 16 in 2014 was in the play-in round as an 11 seed. But upsets along the way, like going into this tournament, we're talking about Duke in the next round, which could be the matchup for sure, but it's not guaranteed. There's a chance they get upset, just like Georgetown as a 3 seed got upset in 2010
By Ohio.
when Tennessee was a 6 seed. Yeah, by Ohio. So Mercer upset Duke, speaking of Duke, in that 2014 round. So you never know what the matchups are going to be. And often Tennessee as the underdog, which actually it isn't by the odds makers here, but by the mood of the fan base right now. The mood of the fan base is not, here we go, Final Four this year. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but typically a lot of the successes come when it was not expected.
We also forgot about one big heartbreak, the 20-point blown lead against Ohio State in the 2007 Sweet 16 when they were up on Greg Oden and Mike Conley by 20 points, and then Ohio State came back and won and then went to the national title game.
Ouch.
Yeah,
Missouri
fans,
State.
they had a little bit of room left on their list of heartbreaks, so we were able to squeeze that one in for them too.
I think a lot of people got over that game because, like, you knew everybody was coming back the next year, and you knew that team was going to be loaded. But, like, looking back, it's like, wow, that team would have gone to the national title game.
Yeah, that team went on. So, speaking of roadmaps, it was right there. And then the next year is when Tennessee was the number one team in the country, and they have Chris Lofton, not known at the time, but battling through cancer. But they get to that Sweet 16 matchup against Louisville, and it was just a matchup nightmare. They had a bunch of guys that were 6'6" to 6'9" that were long, headed to the NBA because of their measurables, and that was just a bad matchup for Tennessee, which was smaller in the backcourt. And that one of the great teams in Tennessee basketball history ran into a roadblock that was not going to allow it to move on.
Yeah, we wouldn't even mention Southwest Missouri State or the game before that gets overlooked. I think it was a 45-41 win over Delaware that set basketball back about 8 decades. That was awful to have to drive to Charlotte and see that. So, not to put you on the spot, Josh's appearance is brought to you by Azul Beer, the official craft beer of Off the Hook Sports, xulbeer.com. Worldwide award-winning craft beer, and they've got parking in downtown Knoxville, which you don't hear from that a lot. But what is the most heartbreaking loss? I want to ask both of you guys. Josh, let me start with you. To me, the Southwest Missouri State was one that it was a 30-point loss to a directional school at a very talented team that Delaware should have gotten their attention in the opening round. That, to me, is still the heartbreaker. So let me throw this out to both of you. What is Tennessee's worst loss and best win in NCAA tournament history? I'll give you guys both time to think about it. Josh, throw one out there. I'll go Southwest Missouri State.
Yeah, I still think the Elite Eight loss, because that is your shot at the Final Four. And the run was so fun, and it came down to the very end. Missed free throw, then play in transition for Michigan State, and they're able to score, and game's over, and your season's over. Instead of going to the Final Four, which moments later you thought had a really good chance to do. So to me, because of how close Tennessee was and the first actual opportunity to go to the Final Four, and to this point, still the only Final Four, we wouldn't be having this conversation if the game goes the other way. We wouldn't be talking about, can you believe Tennessee's never been to the Final Four? And if they had played in it, who knows what would have happened after that. So I would have to go with the Michigan State loss in the Elite Eight.
Yeah, I'm also gonna. My second though is that damn Mark Packer game.
Well, I'm gonna,
Was that because of the game or because of the trip you were gonna be able to potentially take that year because of your
That
travel
was-
plans?
that was it.
Like when you
I
bring up 0-1 LSU, Dave, you have to make sure the audience knows that you're not worried about whether Tennessee was going to the national title
No.
game. You're upset because your trip to Pasadena got canceled.
No, the Marriott Manhattan Beach was booked
Yeah.
at halftime. I'm the one that messed all of that up.
but
So
then you got to go to Disney World. I'm tr-
yeah, that place is hell on earth. Have you done the Disney World thing with the kids yet, Josh?
No, we have not. We will fairly soon. We actually have a semi advantage to the typical setup. There is we have family about an hour away, so we can do a day trip instead of having to book this long trip just to Disney World. We can go visit family and then work in Disney World. So we'll be fine once we do that.
I had free tickets working for ESPN, and I remember being there and paying $50 to park. And my daughter said, "Can we go someplace closer, like Dollywood?" I just wanted to absolutely rip my steering wheel out of the mount and throw it out of the car. All right, so Caleb, what's the best win? Let me start with you, and I'll go to Josh. What's the best win for Tennessee in the NCAA tournament?
Well, just to disagree with both y'all real quick, my worst loss is still that Ohio State game, but in 2007. But because that's the Michigan State game, that was a back and forth. Ohio State, they had no business losing. They were up by 20. But as far as the best win, I think it's the Ohio State win 2 years later when they got, or 2 years later when they got revenge, when they got to their first Elite Eight. That was a thrilling back and forth. Ohio State was a 2 seed. Evan Turner was the clear-cut number 2 pick in the NBA draft behind John Wall. And JP Prince has a clean block, one of the most beautiful blocks you'll ever see on an attempted game-tying 3. And Tennessee goes to the first Elite Eight. So, yeah, 2010 versus Ohio State. Tennessee's a 6 seed. Ohio State's a 2 seed. Tennessee wins in the Sweet 16.
So, Josh, what do you think? Best win for Tennessee in the tournament?
Yeah, so that Ohio State win would have been on my list because of the stage and the high-profile players on Ohio State side with Evan Turner. So that's a good one. Best wins. I'm trying to think of what should count here. They didn't go because part of the issue is we always know that the end still ends up being disappointing for wherever they get to, even if it's the Sweet 16. So I'm going to say Chris Lofton's shot when Tennessee was trying to avoid the upset. You have Dane Bradshaw inbounding the ball to Chris Lofton, kind of curling around, I believe, takes the pass in the corner and falling away, hits that shot to avoid the upset. And they fell the next round. But that to me would be an all-time shot from one of your all-time best players in the NCAA tournament. So the run did not go as far as they hoped, but that spot was memorable for Tennessee fans.
Well, yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that game. It took me a second to remember the opponent.
Yeah,
and it would have been an upset. So Tennessee's best win, do we all agree? Because I'm with Josh. That's one I was going to pick. That Tennessee's best win is avoiding a major upset by falling out of bounds 3-pointer in the corner.
When Caleb's pick, though, is good. Like I might go that over mine. I'm trying to go with maybe a backup option here. But so much of the tournament is you remember the shot itself, right? It's difficult to remember a lot of the games in terms of 40 minutes of action, what happened, because there's so much back and forth. So you remember late. That's why the JP Prince block comes to mind in that spot. So that's well stated. So that might be my preferred pick. But Chris Lofton, the shot because sometimes it's what you avoided. If Tennessee had lost the game, now that's all of a sudden one of your more heartbreaking losses ever as a big favorite. Losing that early, that would have been bad.
Well, that team was so. I remember that team. They were so. That was Bruce Pearl's first team, and they were running 7 guys all year.
Yeah,
so they were so tired.
We talked to Dane Bradshaw about that on our radio show not long ago. It was when Chris Lofton was being honored at the Kentucky game back in January, and kind of talked about how they might have run out of gas at that point in that season because there was so much excitement during the season, and they were playing above their heads in terms of expectations. But it was also the season where we found out this Chris Lofton guy might end up leaving as a very special player in Tennessee history. So that shot added to what fans can remember about him is why I still think the win matters.
Well, guys, when you think about it, not to interrupt the flow here, but Lofton had it not been for the cancer issue that I thought zapped his energy and maybe just the desire to be that 110% committed player. I don't know. I mean, I haven't talked to him, but it definitely zapped his energy that last year at Tennessee. Wouldn't he have been a great fit in the NBA where you can shoot it from wherever you want to? I mean, maybe a little bit ahead of that curve, but I feel for Chris Lofton because I think his potential, Josh, wasn't fully reached for factors way out of his control.
Yeah, it's unfair. One, just the cancer battle that he had to go through. I would say in terms of his desire, like the idea of redshirting was there, but he knew how good that team was going to be, and he wanted to play. And the previous year, I think he considered at least entering the NBA draft, but then he finds out he has cancer, knows he can't go through the draft process. He has to go battle cancer during the offseason. But also timing. Yeah, the game shortly thereafter expanded literally so much to the outside shot mattering and the ability to pull up or hit shots from wherever being emphasized. Well, Chris would have been able to provide that. So I don't know if he would have had an NBA career, but he would have had a more fair shot in the NBA a few years later because of what his skill set was.
Yeah, when I say desire, I was thinking about the next year as he's preparing for the NBA. I mean, you have to be a 110% committed athlete, and I don't know. I thought Charles Hathaway way back in the day, the blood clot medicine affected what he was able to do. I don't know if that affected Lofton or not. At the end of the day, somebody probably should have sat down with him and said, "You need a red shirt. You have cancer, for goodness sake," right? Would that have been best for all parties involved?
I mean, maybe, but they got to number one, and they had they had a terrific season. They still, Chris was, he wasn't a 6'5" guard. He still had the size that he had, and same for Juwan Smith. So that's why when people talk about matchups in the tournament, that is a perfect example. They matched up with Louisville. If they play somebody else that doesn't have that kind of talent, and once you get the Sweet 16, there are no easy games, I recognize, but from a matchup standpoint, Tennessee just didn't have a shot. I remember going to the practices leading up to the Sweet 16 and looking at Louisville in person. They had Terrence Williams. Clark was a maybe freshman 6'9" guy that was a first-round pick. It's like, Tennessee's not going to be able to go around these guys, and they couldn't. So, they play a different team. Maybe history is different for Tennessee there, and the story is incredible. If you're talking about what we know after the fact about Chris Lofton, what he had to battle through, and during the season, we're wondering what's going on with him. But Tennessee still had talent. They had Tyler Smith, who was a high-level talent player in college, and Wayne Chisholm, who's a solid college player who has had a nice pro career overseas. If they run into a different team, they might win, and then they might make the Final Four, and it's the best season in Tennessee basketball history with no competitive second.
Josh, I want to ask one question about this game, but I just want to point out for history purposes, because we all have to be fair to games we didn't watch as the history major here. The game I brought up yesterday, Dave, Dale Ellis apparently hit a game winner in 1981 to send Tennessee to its first Sweet 16 ever to beat VCU. That's probably on the list. It's just none of us remember it. But Josh, as far as this game tonight against Louisiana, we were talking about how efficient they are at shooting the three ball. Is Tennessee going to be able to effectively handle this inside-out game, though? Because Jordan Brown seems like he's I don't know how he's not playing on a major Power 5 program, given his size and his skill set.
Yeah, I mean, he did and showed that he could play at that level. Now he's dominated in the Sun Belt with the numbers he put up. Tennessee better. But they're not talking about Louisiana. They're not prolific from the outside, but they are efficient. And if they're left open to hit shots, Williams, a senior guard who's 6'3", that can really shoot, shot 40% from three this season. If he gets open looks, he's going to hit them most likely. So Tennessee needs to be locked in with its perimeter defense. The post players, it's what I included in the column at the beginning of the week. Don't worry about scoring. I mean, Olivier needs to hit some shots, but you need to defend, need to rebound effectively for 40 minutes. Because if you do, then Louisiana's probably not going to have enough opportunities. But if Brown's able to do everything that he was able to in the Sun Belt in this game, and they're able to get some open shots and they get some second chance looks, then you could be in the middle of the game and have a fight on your hands. If Tennessee plays well enough on offense and rebounds the basketball and takes care of the ball, then I don't think Louisiana has enough to keep up with Tennessee. But if they have extra opportunities, if Tennessee does have turnover issues and they do have players out of position on defense, it leads to a few extra easy buckets for Louisiana and then they don't rebound, then Tennessee could get upset in this game.
Josh, last thing, we have been practicing because people don't identify if they're ripping me or Caleb, except sometimes I get the old guy, which is nice. And so one of us is struggling with Nico's name, and I don't know who that is, Caleb. Is that you or me?
That's you.
It's so you.
That is so you.
Such a bull. All right, so Josh, how are you doing? Much like Tua Tagovailoa, it is important that we get this name right going into the season. So let me hear your thoughts, and then we'll hear Nico's thoughts if you're doing it the right way.
Yeah, I do okay with it. Talking fast sometimes, which I tend to do, I can stumble. But Nico Iamaleava.
Okay, let's check with Nico.
Iamaleava.
Pretty close.
I think Josh
Josh
nailed it.
may have done the best out of everybody that would say it one more time, Josh.
Nico Iamaleava.
Iamaleava.
I think I did pretty well.
I think you might have an extra vowel, though.
Iamaleava.
There you didn't, but you had another vowel a second ago.
Iamaleava. Is that 6?
Iamaleava.
I think you nailed it.
Yeah.
Josh, have a fantastic day. Listen to him on the Sports Animal from noon to 3 because you don't know who will be on at other times. He is Josh Ward. I'm Dave Hooker. Have a fantastic day, Josh. Are you taking the rest of the day off for the tournament?
You mean like after my show, or are you asking if I'm skipping my show?
No, after your show.
I will watch some basketball, but I will also be I'll be doing a little daycare pickup probably. Happy birthday to my youngest. She's 1 today, so we've got big celebration today.
Nora!
So, yeah, she's 1.
That is awesome.
Yep, fastest year of my life. It is complete. It's crazy.
It gets worse. Thank you, Josh.
Yep, thank you guys.
Appreciate that. Josh Ward of the Sports Animal. He's fantastic, and I think he's done the best of our Nico name challenge that we will continue. Brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. You'll notice I'm not wearing glasses. I'm also not wearing contacts. Thanks to Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Local vision that is absolutely through the roof. The vision care is unbelievable. Cataract surgery, LASIK surgery, or just the daily, weekly, yearly eye exam. If you got any sort of issues, they'll take care of you. Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn in Knoxville. They are phenomenal. Coming up, we're going to switch gears for a second. We're going to preview Tennessee's offensive line, and then we'll get to Ron Slay. So a lot going on. Hang tight. Back in a couple minutes. Off the Hook Sports. Hit that like button, please.
Family has been creating jewelry since 1986. Each piece unique with a story all its own. I'm Rick Terry with Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. I'm a jeweler, and I want to be your jeweler. We're grateful that you chose us to be Knoxville's best jeweler. My family and staff look forward to serving you. So please come see us. Kingston Pike and Campbell Station Road in the heart of Farragut and downtown on Gay Street, right next to the Tennessee Theater.
Inflation has risen to the highest level in over 40 years, according to the April 2022 U.S. Inflation Calculator. Will your investments provide you the income you need in retirement? Are you losing purchasing power of your savings due to inflation? Simply stated, if the cost of goods and services are 8% higher and you're only earning 4% in your investments, that money buys you less of what you need. Right now is the time to act. Call Guardian Investment Advisors today.
Hey folks, Gary Viles here. I want to personally invite you to North Knoxville's newest sports bar and restaurant.
It's Big Orange Phillies, located in Black Oak Center. And yes folks, it's happening in Halls. Big Orange Phillies offers family-friendly environment with homemade meals and the best deli-style subs around. Billiards, darts, jukebox, shuffleboard, and cornhole, and a full bar. We also offer valet parking on weekends and during special events. We even have a covered back patio. It's happening at Big Orange Phillies. We want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
Chattanooga, we're at it again. For the 5th year in a row, you voted us best of the best criminal and DUI law firm.
And finalists for best law firm and best personal injury firm.
Thank you for the love, Chattanooga. We won't let you down.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassey Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassey, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassey's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassey Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
Got cataracts? We can fix that. Never miss another moment. With a little help from Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn at ccti's.com.
Objective coverage. Hey, that's new.
If we get caught, we're going to jail.
The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of Off the Hook Sports. YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app.
I'm going to need to see some identification.
Back to Dave Hooker.
Have you downloaded the app yet? If not, you need to do so. And be sure and turn those notifications on. Because I give you a for instance, we had the Vol Report with Cooper Mays go up yesterday. So if you didn't have your notifications on, you might have missed that. So wherever you get your podcast, we encourage you to do so. Ron Slay coming up just a little bit later on the program to give us a preview of Louisiana and Tennessee first round matchup, which the Vols should win about a 10-point spread, but who knows? It is March. Hit that thumbs up button, the like button. We greatly appreciate it. We're with you each and every morning at 10 a.m. live replays throughout the evening and the next morning. So except for tomorrow morning, because it would be very dated for us to talk about the Louisiana game before and then after the Louisiana game. So that wouldn't make much sense. But go ahead and turn those notifications on. Take the time to do it now. You'll be glad that you did. And we've got big things coming up. I mentioned last week the Celebrate 98 series that we're going to have. And somebody asked me, what players and coaches are you going to have on? And I said, all of them. All of them. Yes. If they're still on the face of the earth, we will have all of them. If they started or they were a key coach, all of them. Fred White and I get a chance to work together. We're excited about that. And Caleb Calhoun, by the way, we've got a pretty neat feature that we're working with in which Caleb is actually really good at picking games, which I don't say that about a lot of people because I think betting is a losing proposition, but Caleb's good. And I think we're going to start a partnership here shortly where he will make you money. And how about that? That's pretty cool. So
I will make you lose your money. No, I'm kidding. You'll make
well, you will at least make the people more educated whether or not they lose their money or win their money.
Yeah, it's basically I am increasing your odds.
Yes. And if he doesn't, at least you're more informed than you would have been otherwise, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm kidding, guys, obviously. Just wanted to troll y'all.
So you want to do running backs or do you want to do offensive line today? We both got them on offthehooksports.com. Spring preview. It starts Monday. You make the call because I can do either one. I'm ready to roll.
Let's jump in with running backs. It's a little bit of a unique position just because everybody's back.
Okay. Love it. Let's go running backs, a spring practice preview brought to you by our friends at Craft Treats. They bring you 4 Downs, brought to you by crafttreats.com. Go to crafttreats.com, use the promo code off the hook. 4 Downs is now.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. 4 Downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
Downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right, so 4 Downs about Tennessee's running backs, brought to you by crafttreats.com. Crafttreats.com. Use the promo code offthehook for the chill pills or any of their products there, and you'll have a happier pet. With the chill pills, they've got the CBD infused treats that will help with your pet's digestive issues. Will also help with your pet's arthritis issues. It does that for me and my pet. Thaddeus is very happy when he takes his chill pills, and also with just anxiety, which I know a lot of people deal with their pets. So there we go. It is crafttreats.com. Use the promo code off the hook for 20% off the hook. All right. 4 downs. As I want to talk Tennessee tailbacks, it's an interesting position because you have Jabari Small, and you would think that he's the guy that's going to come in and handle the majority of the carries, but I'm not so sure it's that simple with Dylan Sampson pushing and a Dylan Sampson having some more explosiveness. And also Jalen Wright was actually Tennessee's leading rusher, which might surprise you if you didn't follow the stats. So let me start with first down, and that will be who will be UT's leading rusher in attempts. And the reason I ask it like that is because Jabari Small ran for 157 times for 734 yards. Wright rushed for 875 yards on 146 attempts. So Wright didn't get as many touches like Jabari did, but he actually averaged more yards per carry. So who gets more attempts? Jabari Small, Jalen Wright, Dylan Sampson, or a player to be named later?
I think it's still Jabari Small. Look, Jalen Wright and Dylan Sampson are both they're going to be bigger playmakers, but the question becomes the workhorse. And you and I know this about Josh Heupel's offense. Despite its tempo, despite its emphasis on the quarterback and the skill players, there's a physicality factor that matters. So you still want a workhorse back to a certain degree. And Jabari Small is the guy that can do that. So I think Jabari Small is the only one that can be a playmaker and is also capable of getting you 20 to 25 carries a game.
Okay. I think he is going to be the leading rusher as far as attempts because I think he's the closest thing they have to a power back in short yardage. So I will say yes, that he will be the leader in attempts. Now, who will be the leader in yardage, which was actually Jalen Wright last year?
I still think it's going to be Jalen Wright. I think Jalen Wright's still. You know what though? No, I'm taking it back. I think Dylan Sampson is going to start splitting more reps with Jalen Wright. I think by default, Jabari Small is going to actually get the most yards this year. But I think Sampson and Wright together will average. Each of them will average more yards per carry than Small, and together they'll have significantly more yards than Small. I just think that by default, Small is going to have more yards than them because he's the only back who's there to play that role that Josh Heupel needs him to play.
No, I like Dylan Sampson a lot. 58 carries last season. This is third down. Will he have 100 or more this season? He had 58 last year. I'm putting the over-under at 99.5. Will you take the over or the under? You're a gambling analyst.
Easily the over. Easy.
I think so too.
The biggest thing that held Sampson back last year for people who are interested is that he wasn't great in run block and pass blocking. We saw that against LSU where he allowed that fumble. The minute a running back picks that up, that's the only reason he did. That's the same reason Jamal Lewis was held out the first 4 games in 97. And that's a big part of playing running back. I think Sampson's going to pick that up this offseason.
Yes, I agree. He should be fine with that. Physically, I wonder if he has the stature to really help out in pass pro. We'll see. But I think that he's the type of electric player that we're going to see really shine out of the backfield. I'm not taking anything away from Wright or Small, but I just don't think there's that type of explosion there. Travis says 3 running backs, 100 carries is a lot. Yes, so Travis is taking the under. But I'm with Caleb here. I believe that when you look at so let's say roughly there are 350 carries to go around before we get to fourth down. So 350 carries to go around. I could see Jabari Small getting $150. I could see Jalen Wright, who had 146 last year, getting about 100. And I could see Dylan Sampson getting about 100. That's how I would break it down if you ask me as of today.
Yeah, I'm pretty much right there with you on that. I like to try to disagree with you for our show sometimes, but in this situation, I can't.
Be genuine. You're crushing it. Okay. So the last one, fourth down. 4 downs again brought to you by Craft Treats. Use the promo code off the hook and they'll take care of your pet. Great holistic medicine, CBD choices as well. Fourth down, Will Jacob Warren, our own Jacob Warren, play the power back position at fullback, much like Princeton Fant did last year?
No, because Khalifa Keith is there.
But he's not there till the summer.
Yeah. Okay. What do you have to learn playing a power back? Hey,
It's pretty easy.
That may be the easiest thing you ever have to know.
It's pretty much A or B gap.
Yes. Hence the reason you can remember 2012 and put AJ Johnson in there at power back?
Oh, I almost forgot that. Yes, and Keith too is like already 230 pounds. So I think so too. I hate saying that about a freshman who's coming in the summer, Caleb, but I think he steps in there. I think that the interesting thing is going to be you're going to hear about Sampson in the first 2 weeks. I'll go ahead and tell you what's going to happen in spring practice because I've been around a lot of these things. So assuming Sampson is healthy, you're going to hear about him a lot in the first couple of weeks because they know what they got in Small and Wright. So they're not going to push those guys. And then 2 weeks deep, you might hear about somebody else. I don't know who that somebody else is. He might be a walk-on, but they'll try to give a guy some pub because you don't have to run a bunch of the tread off the tires of Small and Wright. You know what you've got. You'll find out what you've got with Dylan Sampson about halfway through. And at that point, honestly, with what you have returning, you can take your foot off the pedal with these running backs. I mean, there's no need to run somebody out there and get them hurt. I could go back to the days of Kirsten Biggers, Michael Stewart, who went to Hawaii and actually had a pretty good career. There are a ton of tailbacks who were spring tailbacks. And I don't know who that guy's going to be, but you're going to have a spring tailback by the orange and white game that everybody's going to get excited about, but it's not going to play very much in the fall. Caleb, that's just the way football works.
Yeah, specifically with running backs. I mean, it's really hard to, again, I mean, everybody was excited about Ontario Smith back in 2000. And I believe some people,
he was for real though.
No, I know, but I believe some people thought, remember this 2000 after Travis Henry left, running back was supposed to be a weakness the year Travis Stevens was going to be the feature back. And I think a lot of people thought Ontario Smith was going to be the better back than Travis Stevens. And then Ontario Smith transfers and Travis Stevens sets the all-time rushing record. Largely because of the best offensive line ever, but
well, I'll be honest with you. I thought that Ontario Smith was going to be a superstar, and I thought that Travis Stevens was a little bit slight of frame.
Oh, I did too. I didn't think anybody thought he could handle that, like that Arkansas game where he carried it 41 times. I don't think anybody thought he was capable of doing that.
Yeah, and then the next year you had, you talk about a hornet's nest. That may have been the worst hornet's nest that Tennessee ever walked into, and that was at Arkansas. You had Darren McFadden, Felix Jones, and ESPN Game Day was in Arkansas for the first time ever, and they ran all kinds of trick plays in the first half. I mean, Tennessee could have played they had to play their A-plus game that day to win because Arkansas was so ready. It's rare you have a feel before a game sitting in a press box like, oh man, you better survive.
Well, Eric Ainge wasn't starting that game either because remember when Cutcliffe called a quarterback draw to run out the clock against South Carolina and Eric Ainge got hurt.
Yeah, that of all the games that Tennessee stepped into, that Arkansas game that year felt like the biggest buzzsaw game. And I still remember it felt like you saw shots of Darren McFadden's biceps each and every play. He had incredible biceps. Those are biceps to strive for. Do you recall those when he would do the muscle thing?
I don't recall the muscle thing. I remember his biceps though, because I remember like the way he ran and his speed and his shiftiness. I'm like, this is like if Reggie Bush, it's like Reggie Bush athleticism, but like way stronger. It's like if Reggie.
Yeah, like 20 pounds bigger.
Yeah, exactly. He was a freak in college. I mean, look, I thought he should have won the Heisman in 07 over Tim Tebow. I'm sorry. I thought Darren McFadden should have been the Heisman winner.
I wouldn't have hated that. That was before I had my vote, and I righted all the Heisman wrongs. So now that I have a vote, everybody, I think I've only missed one. But I make different picks. Like Will Anderson a couple of years ago was on my final three. He should have been in New York City. He wasn't. But
no, they only send defensive guys to New York City when a Tennessee quarterback is there.
That's right. All right, let's bring the one, the only Ron Slay in here. Love this guy. He's a superstar in the SEC network. He's on 104.5 The Zone with Brent and Don. Great people. So Check them out if you're in the Nashville area. Ron, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, man. How you guys doing?
Good. I have to be honest with you, though. I feel for you a little bit. I've done both shifts. I've done morning, I've done afternoons in radio, and this is the 2 days, the Thursday and Friday. You don't want to do afternoons. You just want to get back and eat as many chicken wings as you can.
Yeah, guess what? The good thing is we carry the games.
Oh, yeah, so you're off.
I'm off, baby. It's time to enjoy the games. I'm sitting back and chilling, drinking and eating, baby. Drinking and eating.
But you'll still do, you'll still do 3 to 7, right?
No.
Oh, so you're off.
Yeah, we off. Thursday and Friday, we're carrying all the games with Westwood One. So they're carrying the games while we're on. And hey, more power to them, baby. I'll see you on Monday.
Wait a second. Let me check my watch. I can be in Nashville in about an hour and 45 minutes. If I'm just
Come on, meet me at Party Foul. I am hosting a watch party though, so yeah, I'll be there for a little while.
Man,
I got an open tab too, Dave. So come on, baby.
An open tab. Well, I don't drink anymore, but I can eat a lot.
You can eat and drink a lot of water, baby. You can drink a lot of water.
Ron, Tennessee, finish this sentence for me. Tennessee will win easily tonight, which I think they will, because why?
You eliminate their main focus in Jordan Brown. You eliminate him with your 4 bodies that you have, and keep him to 6 points and 8 rebounds. I think that's a great job done, because that means you have to have Louisiana go to a different outlet, and that's not their main source of output. Their offense is what keeps them rolling, and if you don't have Jordan Brown as the catalyst for that, then I think Louisiana's in trouble, especially under those lights, being a team that hasn't really been there. So I think it's an opportunity for Tennessee to take advantage of that, especially with the 4 bodies they got to throw at them.
Ron, it's interesting to me you brought up Jordan Brown, because I look at this Louisiana team. They remind me of like a mid-major version of Arizona, almost like a clone. Super efficient from 3. They have an inside-out game. Is that good or bad news for Tennessee? They put up a fight against Arizona on the road earlier this year. So
I'd much rather have them playing a team like this with an inside-outside threat instead of a spread offense where you got guys shooting from everywhere, where you got to get Adu matched up with a stretch 5, or Tobe running out and switching on point guards, and having guys in mismatch situations. I would much rather have this, because guys are going to be able to play their natural positions. Tennessee still plays a traditional 4 and 5 in the games, and you want to be able to continue with that. So you don't want to have the bulk of the minutes go to Josiah sliding down to the 4th spot. You want to get as much rest for him as possible, and cool with him being in a natural position at the 3 where he doesn't have to do a lot of banging and things of that nature. So hopefully on the offensive end for Tennessee, you can take advantage and get some buckets too, where you don't have to go about being in a spread situation either. You want to play your traditional style. So I love this matchup, actually.
I think we lost Caleb's mic. Caleb, did we lose your mic?
Yes, you did. I apologize.
Come on, Caleb. It's March Madness and your mic's going crazy.
I remember my first time in radio.
That's the second mic failure today.
Josh Ward had a mic failure with us just a second. Hey, look at your cup. Hold the cup up.
Oh, yeah.
I got 35.
Yeah, VFL on the other side.
Can I get a 35 cup?
Hey.
Oh, look at that.
I'll trade you a Hooker shirt, which is quickly becoming dated because Hendon's gone. A Hooker shirt for a 35 cup.
It can mean so many different things, Dave.
Looks like a Raiders cup. I'm going to be honest. The black and silver.
Reference to my daughter.
I went neutral, Caleb. I went neutral. I can take it anywhere.
So, Rod, it's funny because you're not supposed to look ahead, but I do want to talk a little bit about if Tennessee wins, the possibility of them facing Duke. Do you think it's a given that they're going to face Duke? Because Oral Roberts, I scouted them. They shoot really well from outside.
They do shoot really well. And then you got guys that are not So with Oral Roberts, you got guys that are new to it and don't know any better coming into the NCAA tournament. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't know they're not supposed to be good. They don't know they're supposed to be upset. They don't know they're supposed to be stunned and shocked by the lights. So they come in and playing their way free for all. You never know what can happen in the tournament. That's one thing about March Madness. You can't script it. It's unscripted. And Duke coming into it, you're led by a guy in Jeremy Roach, but man, you got a lot of freshmen out there playing the bulk of the minutes who ain't never been there either. And this isn't Duke right now carries the same mystique to me as Kentucky does. Like, nobody's really afraid of the tradition there because you don't have the same guy for Duke roaming the sidelines. Like, at some point, he could get it together and get these guys to snap out of it and start playing the Duke style of way. Not saying anything against Shire, but like this is new for these guys, man. He's not been under the microscope of being shocked or something like that. You know, Hubert Davis went through it this year, so I mean, it's only right if you look at the Boston brackets, then Oral Roberts go out there and give Duke a hell of a show.
Ron, I'm of the belief with John Calipari, and I want to get back to this game, that he's survived and thrived on the one and done. But I think you're going to see teams. I think you're about to see a real renaissance period in college basketball during the regular season. And the reason I believe that is because NIL is going to keep guys around who might have gone to the NBA prematurely.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see more mature teams. I think we're going to see guys that we know year to year, which is important. So I tie that to John Calipari, and he might have his one and dones and be more talented.
Yeah.
But I think his ship sailed. I think the game is now evolved, and it's going to be tougher for him to win at a high level with the one and done method. Your thoughts?
I think you could be right on that, Dave. I just look at it as, you know, he got a hell of a class coming in next year, man. And when you talk about talent, that is something serious. But we all know, man, when you playing against a guy that's 22, like a lot of these guys still have COVID years left. So when you speak into it, like guys playing against guys 22 years old, 23 years old with NIL deals too, they're not really worried about the 19-year-old that's coming in and getting all the hoopla about going to the NBA and things of that nature. Like, they want to shock you and be on front page of whatever website it is to let them know that, hey, man, we're here too. And we just knocked off Goliath. And that's what I'm talking about with the mystique not really being there. Like, he even Cal tried to bring back a veteran group, and it still was a little rocky, you know. Case and Wallace kind of that mode that he went with this year, veterans around one young guy, kind of works right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you talk about the renaissance of a program, kind of putting a guy in there, a freshman, and letting him be around some veteran guys, and him trying to mature, and then by the end of the season, kind of like what Case and Wallace did. That'll be totally different next year when he gets all these one and dones, and guys got to move on, and he's stuck with them, and they don't have that experience, man. Experience is the best teacher. You don't have that, man. You don't have nothing. And it looks like, to your point, that's what it's about to get back to, because you're going to have not only that, but you got mid-major guys that's going to get in the transfer portal and try to make that leap to the Power 5 conferences, and they're going to be ready to play and prove something. So they'll be licking their chops when a guy comes in, such as a DJ Wagner next year, and you get the opportunity to play against him head up, you know, and it's going to be fun to watch. I think you're right. You got to be able to mix it in and sprinkle it in with the transfer portal and guys that are staying around.
I think you're seeing already some of that at Gonzaga. I think there are guys that want to stay as opposed to hopefully make an NBA team. Sorry, Caleb, go ahead.
Yep.
No, that's fine. It's time to put Ron on the spot regarding Tennessee.
Are we going to do the pronounce Nico's name?
No.
I got it, I think.
Oh, you got it? All right, let's try
I
that
don't want to do it right now. I had it. Iamaliava.
Okay. Nico, what do you say? Oh, that's the wrong drop.
Another Ellen radio.
Yeah,
that was
I'm having one of those days. I'm excited about it.
Iamaliava.
Okay, Nico, what do you say?
Iamaliava.
I think Ron just destroyed Josh Ward.
It's Maleava? See, I thought it was Maleava. Maleava.
Nico, tell me.
Iamaliava.
There we go.
I can send you that for your drop bank if you would like.
Maleava. You know what? I ride around saying this name because guess what? Because Ramon got it. Ramon Foster got it, and I'm like, man, how did he get that? So after I heard him get it right, I said, you know what? I'm gonna ride around practice saying it. So I've been practicing for about a month. I'm gonna be ready for it.
I did too. Bob Kessling's somewhere doing that as we speak. All right, Caleb, go ahead.
It's fine. That wasn't the thing that was going to put him on the spot, but that was a good one. No, what I'm putting you on the spot for is, all right, who goes further? Both number 4 seeds, Vols or Lady Vols?
Ooh.
That is a good one, Caleb. Golly. Oh, with the Lady Vols playing at home. That's a good one, man. Wow.
It's tougher than it was back in the day when you just assumed the Lady Vols would make the Sweet 16.
You just knew what it was. You just knew what it was. Like they scaved by a little bit last year. I forgot who it was. Was it Louisville they were playing in Tennessee? I forgot who it was, but I was watching it. Yeah, and they got on by that one. Man. See, that mystique is gone just a little bit too, like I was speaking about with Kentucky and Duke too. So you got to kind of regain that. I'm gonna have to go. The safest pick is the Lady Vols. That's the safest pick with them playing at home, and I think they got a jolt in the arm with Tamaria Key announcing she's coming back. Rakia Jackson, her announcing. I think that kind of lifts the spirits and gets them through. My money. I'm gonna go with the men, man. I'm gonna go with the men. I got the men getting to the Sweet 16, and then we'll see what happens then.
Wow.
So it may be even. I may break even on this.
Yeah, I think if you put money on
what you think, Caleb?
I'm sorry?
What you think?
Oh, I got Lady Vols. I got Lady Vols going to the Sweet 16. I got men losing in the second round. Sorry, I'm a hater.
Okay, that's cool. So you got him losing to Oral Roberts.
I got to lose.
You think Duke is going?
I got to lose.
Oh, you think Duke is going to make it?
I think Duke's going to make it. I think without Zakai, I think Tennessee is just going to have too many issues to get to the Sweet 16.
So what is it? You like the freshmen for Duke? What is it? Like what make you think them freshmen go?
No, it's more just Duke's red hot. I mean, they've won 9 straight. They won the ACC tournament. They still shoot the ball well, and they still have enough size. And I don't think Tennessee can turn up the tempo the way they would want to defensively without Zakai. And I think that's I think Duke's gonna be able to run their offense because of that.
Okay.
Ron, we were having the discussion earlier. Is Tennessee the best program to not make it to a Final Four? And you start to look at the list, and there are well-funded programs like Alabama is one, and there are other programs that place a higher emphasis on basketball, I believe, like say Xavier. But when you start talking about the best programs to never make the Final Four, Tennessee's right up there. And when you talk about the Ernie and Bernie days and you guys and all that Tennessee's had in a rich basketball history, second to Kentucky and wins in the SEC and all of that. And I'm just curious what a Final Four run would mean to Tennessee's basketball program, both from a recruiting and fan standpoint.
I think it would stamp it. You're looking for a stamp to solidify that you belong. Like you got all the accolades, you got players of the years and All-Americans and everything, but you're missing that Final Four run that you got to be able to look back at. It's kind of like the Vols football team in the 80s and 90s. You're like, yeah, all this talent, man. Like, dude, great coach, great players, great fan base, and it was all stamped and solidified with that 98 national championship. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of let everybody, this next generation, ride in on a wave and, start to be able to remember what the golden years were like. I think this is what you need. You gotta have it at some point for basketball. I think it's been a lot of flirting. The expectations have been there. Just not being able to get all the way there, man. Whether it's a bad call, luck of the ball, bouncing a certain way, whatever it is, you gotta get there, man. Somehow, some way. And I think it'll mean the world. It'll mean the world to Vol Nation and the Tennessee basketball program and the program in itself.
Ron, one more either or real quick. On a broader scale, I've given my thoughts on March Madness. I admit when I'm watching the tournament, it's exciting. It's overall, it's like alcohol to me. I love it, but it's
Welcome
not.
to the fun, Caleb. Welcome to the fun, Caleb. Welcome to the party, baby.
I said sometimes I feel like it sacrifices the regular season too much. So March Madness to me is like alcohol. I love it, but it causes some other damage that you don't feel when you're enjoying it at the time. But so what's going to be more exciting? March Madness or the upcoming in 2 years 12-team college football playoff? Which one's going to be more fun long term?
Smart.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm gonna have to say March Madness, just because it being unscripted, and this is the only time that you can have a mid-major that was 500 in the regular season catch fire down the stretch and make a Sweet 16 run. Like you with the 12-team playoff, you know you're gonna get the first 4 with a bye. The other 8 teams that are playing, you kind of got it figured out. You know what I'm saying? And even if those, say, a lower team advances and gets to play one of those first 4 teams, I mean, I don't think the hype will be there. It'll be good for the programs without question and the travel and everything, but I don't think we're going to walk into it thinking that San Diego State can beat Alabama if they match up against them. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you come into this one, we sitting here talking about Oral Robertson. We can really put up a debate about why Oral Roberts can get Duke. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think with that hanging around March Madness and it being 3 weeks of it, it's like March Madness has its own place. If we can just get NFL free agency to simmer down, I think everything will be fine. But the college football playoff is going to be fun for that time, I think, without question, because you're also playing off the heels of the NFL playoffs getting ready to go too. So it's like a culmination of, it's just a party. It's just a party all around. You know, you on Saturday, Sunday, like the weekends are great. You're gonna have to end up taking off Monday for some reason, but it's everything you want in fun and sports and storylines and things of that nature. But ain't nothing like March Madness, man. Nothing like March Madness.
No, it's pretty special. I've always found one of the most interesting things to me is in basketball, when you get selected in the tournament, you basically have 3 days to prepare for opponent 1. And then you've got 48 hours to prepare for opponent 2. So covering you guys, I'm familiar with how that works. You would have one guy scout Oral Roberts, you would have one guy scout Duke.
Mm-hmm.
But it just is fascinating to me in football. I mean, they're studying Georgia like today. Okay. So I mean, you don't have that quick a turnaround. So that being said, with that as the backdrop, and you've got to get ready for a team, does Rick Barnes or did Jerry Green have conversations like big picture, macro conversations? And the conversation this year would be, anybody can win this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm Rick Barnes and I look at my team, I say, listen, we've had some ups and downs. Things didn't go well at the end of the year. Lost Sakai. But there's 25, 30 teams that could win this tournament. Why can't you be one of them? Do you have those big macro conversations, or is there too much going on getting ready for a game?
I think it's you have that leading up to the game, day of the game, it's kind of put out of your mind, and you kind of narrow it and start to think just about that team. You actually don't even. I think that's what got us in trouble on our Sweet 16 run. Us looking forward to, we couldn't wait to play Tulsa. Oh, we knew, like we knew we had North Carolina. It wasn't no ifs, ands, or buts. We knew we were gonna beat them. We knew that they ran their offense through Brandon Haywood. We were gonna lock them down. We had the best defender probably to walk the earth at 6'8", 6'9" with CJ Black. So he was gonna handle Haywood, and he handled them. And then you could throw me at him, Hathaway, Hayslip. Like, we had bodies. We had bodies to throw at them that had IQ and know how to play and wasn't scared to bang. So we're coming out and in the tunnel, like we telling North Carolina, like, we about to beat y'all. And it ain't even like, it don't matter how we do it, we gonna beat y'all. We see Tulsa, we see Bill Self in the stands scouting the game, and we can't wait. We saw him walk by. Coach, we after y'all. We got y'all. We making up because we played them in Puerto Rico earlier that year,
right,
and lost to them. So we automatically like, oh yes, this is it. Like it's set up perfect for us. And Haywood fouled out. And that threw our whole game plan off.
Came in. I'll never
and Julius Peppers
sitting there and looking at that dude thinking that is one heck of an athlete. But you should blame. Do you still talk to Mark Packer at all?
Yeah, I do talk to
You should
Mark,
blame him
yeah.
because he came up to me on the sideline. He said, well, looks like Tennessee's going to the Final Four now. And as soon as he said that, Brendan gets the foul and Julius Peppers comes in. It's Mark Packer's fault.
That's exactly whose fault it is. That's exactly like we had it. If he never fouls out,
right?
They continue to run their offense through Haywood, and it's nothing. They took the ball out of his hands and put it in Ed Coda's hands, man, and he was a maestro, man, and it crushed us. So, I think, man, you can get caught looking ahead, but you want to focus on the game. I'm talking about all the way until the time ticks off, and that's what we were doing all the way up to that point, and I think we kind of felt it too. Like we got these guys.
Oh, I thought there was no question. You guys had it. But quick question on the message board. Have you ever thought about going into coaching?
Yeah, that's what I actually wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do before I started doing this. I tried my hand at everything, man. I did high school coaching for 4 years. I tried to get into college ranks. Did a couple private schools. Like I did it. I did it all, man. Knocked on the door, beat on the door, and that door never opened. Nobody ever came to it. I don't even think nobody looked out the peephole. So I actually went to the house next door, and the media door was wide open, and they greeted me with open arms, and here I am.
You have that little automatic cameras on the door. Ding dong, it's Ron again. Pretend we're not here.
Everybody just got quiet. I saw the lights on and everything. It was a party. It was like Home Alone when the people going by the window. When he was acting.
Well, I'm curious though, because I mean, you could still do it when you see Penny, Jerry Stackhouse, those guys that are doing that. You're building a name for yourself. We've seen in basketball guys get plucked from the media. Well, how would you react if that happened? If somebody called?
I'm gonna be honest, man. Honestly, I would love to do it. Like it's nothing like being around the game of basketball, to prep for it, and to be able to transfer the information to the player, and then the player carry it out. It may only happen 2 out of 8 times that the player carries out the information, but when it happens, man, it's no other greater feeling than that. Like as a coaching staff to go back in that locker room after the players in there celebrating, you sit right there like, that was a hell of a game plan, man. And they carried it out, and we got the win. Like that's as close as you will ever get again to playing. You know what I'm saying? Like to be able to have your imprint on the game, that is no other feeling like that. Like when I get to go call games, I still prep like I'm playing the game. Like I don't really take my notes out there with me or anything. Like I write them down, study the notes, put my music on as I'm getting dressed. You know what I'm saying? As I'm riding to the arena, I got my music bumping like I'm getting ready to play the game, and it's showtime. So that's as close as I get right now in broadcasting and doing media. So yeah, it ain't nothing like it. Ain't nothing like coming through that tunnel. It's different.
It's telling you what I might do, because I've always, Ron, I know you played it in high school. I think you'd be a good football coach, honestly.
Yeah, I'll be a good get back coach.
Here's the thing. If Ron, born in Memphis, lives in Nashville, went to school, went to UT Knoxville, one of the guys that covers the whole state of Tennessee. If you coach Tennessee, I don't think a player would leave the state.
Hey man, I'm gonna tell you, I wouldn't let them. I wouldn't let them. Like I'll probably be investigated with tampering, and mine would be more of kidnapping, because I'm not gonna let them. You try to go to a visit, I'm gonna be waiting there at the airport and take them away, then keep them for 2 days, and they'll be like, "I just missed this recruiting visit. Sorry." Hey man, come on up into Tennessee. Like, hey man, there's no way I'll let anybody get out the state of Tennessee. I would love it. I would love it.
Ron, great stuff. For those that might be listening in Nashville, where are you going to be for the watch party again?
I'm in Party Foul. Party Foul, the restaurant in Murfreesboro today from 10 until, and then tomorrow I'm at Party Foul in Cool Springs. So
it's
come out and holler at us, watch the game with us.
We had another question from Nick real quick. More popular in high school, you or John Henderson?
Oh, no question. Big John. Hey, man, this man was He was the number one player in football in America, especially on the defensive end. Ronald Curry, him and Ronald Curry would go back and forth. And then he was top 15 in basketball. Like, this man was Baby Shaq.
Nice.
How can I be more popular than Baby Shaq? Like, I was 6'4", 6'5", 185. He's 6'8", 285, and moving like nah. Wasn't no comparison. I had more highlights than him though. That's what you want to know.
Absolutely. So you'll be a party foul is a chicken tender technically.
Yes.
Let me ask you this: is a boneless chicken wing a thing, or is it just a big chicken nugget?
That's a big chicken nugget.
You gotta have the bone. You gotta have the bone.
You gotta have the bone in, and nothing like it.
You're a great man, Ron. I appreciate you, buddy. Enjoy the tournament.
All right, let's go Vols, baby.
There we go. Ron Slay, former Vol. We certainly appreciate his time. Have a fantastic day. Enjoy the tournament. We will be on with you after the game tonight, win or lose. So that'll be a lot of fun. And we join you each and every day at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So set those notifications on. And Friday, we'll have a Football Friday with Fred. Fred White will join us for Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been